Hello friends, welcome back to CSharp.net online training video series. Today we are going to discuss multiple inheritance in CSharp. Before understanding multiple inheritance, let us first understand what is an interface because this multiple inheritance concept is related to interface only, right? So what is an interface? Let us read the definition. An interface is a fully unimplemented class used for declaring only abstract member. That means as part of an interface, you can only declare abstract member. That abstract member might be your abstract method, might be your abstract properties, right? But you can only declare abstract member. You cannot declare any non-abstract member, like you cannot declare a field, you cannot declare a variable, you cannot declare any static member, you cannot declare any non-static methods, right? So these things you cannot declare. What you can declare, you can only declare abstract members. So we can also say that, or we can also define an interface is a pure abstract class which allows us to define only abstract member, especially abstract methods and properties, abstract properties, right? What is an abstract method? An abstract method is a method without body or without implementation. So the point that you need to remember, an interface is a fully unimplemented class. Fully unimplemented class means none of the member are implemented within the interface, right? Within the interface, you cannot provide one, we cannot provide any implementation to the members, right? So an interface member implementation is going to be provided by the child class of the interface. The class which implements, right? Whoever the child, whoever the class, whichever class is going to implement the interface means that class needs to be provide implementation to all the abstract member that are defined inside an interface, right? So you have to create one interface. As part of an interface, you are going to declare some member. That member are going to be by default abstract member, and the child class who is going to implement that interface will take the responsibility to provide all the interface member implementation, right? It's mandatory for the child class to provide implementation to all the abstract members, right? Now let us try to understand what is multiple inheritance, right? So if you watched my inheritance in CSharp video, then you should know that we have a set of rules and regulations that we need to follow while working with inheritance. And in our types of inheritance video, we have already discussed that as for object-oriented programming, we can divide the inheritances into 5 types. What are the types? We have single, multi-level, hierarchical, multiple, and hybrid inheritance. For better understanding, you can see this image. So this is single inheritance. Class 2 having a single parent class, that is class 1. This is multi-level inheritance. One class is derived from another derived class. Here class 3 is derived from class 2, class 2 is derived from class 1. And this is hierarchical inheritance. That is one base class and multiple child classes. This is nothing but your hierarchical inheritance. And you can see multiple inheritance. One derived class having multiple parent class or multiple base class, and this hybrid inheritance it is nothing but the combination of multiple inheritance plus single, multi-level, and a hierarchical inheritance, right? So this is the nothing but it's a combination of two or more inheritances, right? So what we discussed, now we also discussed that with class only single, multi-level, and hierarchical inheritances are possible, right? Using classes in C Sharp, you can implement the single, multi-level, and hierarchical. But using class, you cannot implement this hybrid and multiple inheritance. Why we cannot implement this? Because of the ambiguity issue, right? What is ambiguity issue? We are going to discuss today, right? So, and then what we discussed, now then we divided this 5 type of inheritances into 2 types based on the immediate parent class. If a class having only one immediate parent class, we are saying that that is a single inheritance. And if one class having multiple immediate parent class, then we are saying that it is multiple inheritance. So you can say single, multi-level, hierarchical. Any class you take, you will see that it is having only one immediate parent class. Class 2 having one immediate parent class. So in multi-level, any class 3, immediate parent class, class 2. Class 2, immediate parent class, class 1. Here, class 2, immediate parent class, class 1. Here, class 3, immediate parent class, class 1. So in these 3 cases, you will see that at any point given of time, a class having only one immediate parent class. So we can say these 3 types of inheritance are singular inheritance, right? Now, coming to the other part, you can see class 4. Class 4 having two immediate parent class. So it's multiple inheritance. Here class 3 having two immediate parent class. So this is multiple inheritance. So the first three, that is single, multi-level, hierarchical, it's supported in C# with classes. We will not face any kind of issues. But the last two, that is hybrid and multiple, is not supported in C# through classes because of the ambiguity issues, right? Even multiple inheritance is not supported through classes in CSharp, but it is still supported through interfaces, right? A class can have one and only one immediate parent class, whereas the same class can have any number of interface as its parent. That is, multiple inheritance is supported in C# through interfaces. For better understanding, you can look at this image, right? So here it is our class. This is our child class. And this child class can have only one immediate parent class, right? You cannot have more than one parent class. That is not possible. But you can have multiple interfaces. So a class can inherit from a single class, but can inherit at the same time, can inherit from multiple interfaces. As you can see, a class can have one and only one immediate parent class. At the same time, the same class can have n number of interfaces as its parent. So the point that you need to remember is multiple inheritance is supported only through interfaces in C#. It is not supported through classes, right? Now let us proceed and try to understand multiple inheritance. Why not supported through classes, right? So this is the one of the interview question, right? If you are attending any interview, then you might face this question. Why multiple inheritance not supported through classes in C#? Right? Let us try to understand. Multiple inheritance is not supported through classes because we came across one problem. What is the problem? Ambiguity problem. What is ambiguity problem? Let us try to understand. Right? Please have a look at this following example. If I will ask the question to you whether this code is valid or not, then what will be your answer? Definitely, your answer will be no. So why no? Because we cannot define two methods with the same name and same signature within a single class, right? Method overriding is not possible within a single class. This is nothing but we are defining two methods with the same name and same signature within the same class, and this is not possible, right? We already know this concept, right? But now if you think that if compiler will allow these two methods to be compiled, then what problem we will face? Compiler allow this program to be compiled. Suppose think that we are not getting any kind of a compilation error, then what will be the problem? We'll face the ambiguity problem. How we will face the ambiguity problem? Suppose you are creating an instance of this class, and if you are invoking the text method, then which version of the text method it is going to invoke? The compiler will only get confused. Yeah, there are two text method available inside this class 3, and you are trying to execute the text method, but I am getting only confused. I'm getting confused to which version of the text method I need to execute. And in that scenario, the compiler will show you and give you one ambiguity error like this. So in this case, you can see class 3 having two text method. You are creating an instance of class 3 and invoking the text method. And what error you are getting? See, the call is ambiguous between the following methods and properties. What method and properties? Class 3.text and class 3.text. That means within this class 3, there are two text method. So I'm getting confused to which version of the text method to be invoked. And this is nothing but your ambiguity problem. And the point that you need to remember, we will also face the same ambiguity problem if our class is inheriting from two or more classes, right? Suppose this is class 3, and this class 3 is inheriting from class 1 as well as from class 2. That means what? This class 1 having the text method, and the same text method is also available in class 2, right? So, and in this case, if class 3 is inheriting from class 1 and class 2, what it means? It means now this class 3 having two text method with the same name and same signature. But we already seen that we cannot define the two method with the same name and the same signature. Why we cannot define? Because of the ambiguity issue. So the same ambiguity problem we will face if we are allowing our class to be inherited from two classes, and if the classes having the same method, right? In this case, class 1 having text method, class 2 having text method, and this class is inheriting from both the classes, means both the text method are going to be inherited to the class 3, and now class 3 will confuse. Right now, if you create an instance of the class 3 and if you invoke the text method, then class 3 will get confused. Which method I need to be execute? Whether I need to execute the method from the class 1 or I need to execute from the method from class 2. And why we are getting ambiguity issue? Because in this case, this class providing this test method to class 3 for consumption, right? And this class 2 also providing this test method to class 3 for consumption, right? And when we are trying to consume the text method, then only we are facing the ambiguity issue, right? So in this case, what the compiler will do is he will not allow you to he will not allow you to inherit two classes, right, from a single child class. So you cannot make multiple inheritance with classes, because compiler no. If I allow this inheritance, if I allow class 3 to be inherited from class 1 and class 2, there might be, we will get the chance of ambiguity issues, right? And in this case, these two text method are going to be available inside the class 3, and whenever we are creating an instance and whenever we are going to execute the text method, the compiler will only get confused whether I need to execute the text method from class 1 or whether I need to execute the text method from class 2. That is the reason why at the time of designing only it is restricting this. What is it is restricting? Now it is saying class 3 cannot have a multiple base class 1 and class 2. You cannot create a class by inheriting from two or more than two classes, right? You cannot make this class. A class can have only inherit from a single class. But multiple interfaces, that is possible, but multiple classes is not possible, right? We are facing this issue because of the ambiguity problem. So because of the ambiguity problem, the compiler itself not allowing this inheritance. You cannot inherit your class from two more classes. But with interface, right? But if we are using interface, we do not have this ambiguity problem, right? Suppose one class is inherited from two interfaces, and if both the interfaces contain the same method, then also we will not face the ambiguity problem. The reason is, in this case, the interface provides the method to the child class for implementation, but not for consumption. Consumption create ambiguity problem, not implementation, right? To understand this, please have a look at this diagram. This is our child class. Now this child class inherit from interface 1 as well as inherit from interface 2. In interface 1, we declared one abstract method called text. In interface 2, we also declared one abstract method text, right? Now in this case, this interface not providing this text method to be consumed by the class, rather it is saying to the class, hey class, please implement this test method. And the same in the case of interface 2 also. Interface 2 not providing this test method to be consumed by the class, rather it is saying to the class, hey Mr. Class, please implement my text method. So in this case, we are not going to consume the text method from interface 1 and interface 2, rather we are going to implement the text method inside the class. So here both the interfaces requesting the child class to implement the text method, not to consume the text method, and hence we will not get any kind of ambiguity problem, right? Now let us try to understand this multiple inheritance with one example, right? Let us first create two interfaces, right? So I'm trying to create two interfaces with the same text code. So what I'm doing, I'm just copy pasting the code, right? So this is my interface 1, and inside interface 1 I'm declaring void text method, and inside interface 2 I'm also declaring void text method. If you remember, in interface we have already discussed, even though we created this method as void text, by default internally it is going to be public abstract void text, and same it is also going to be public abstract void text, right? Now create one class, right? Now what I'm trying to do is I'm going to create one class by inheriting from both the interfaces. You can see this is my class, and this class is inheriting from interface 1 and interface 2. Now if you see, now if you compile the application, then you will see that we will get a two compilation error, right? What are the error? Now it is saying this class doesn't implement interface 1 text method, and this class, that is interface multiple inheritance test class, doesn't implement interface member interface 2.text. And this makes sense because we are implementing two interfaces. That means we need to provide implementation to this text method. And this interface saying that this the interface one text method is not implemented by this class, and interface two also saying the same thing. This class is not implemented my text method, right? So in this case, we are getting two error, right? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm implementing the text method, right? So in this case, I'm implementing the text method. But as soon as I implement this text method, you can observe both the error are gone. I'm implementing only one text method, but both the error are gone. Why? That we need to understand, right? Here you will observe that once we implement the text method, right, inside the multiple inheritance text class, then both the compile time errors are gone. Now you will see code is compiled successfully. You can see there is no compilation error, right? Now if you try to build the solution, then you will see that build succeeded. You can see here build succeeded, build one succeeded, zero failed, zero updated, zero skip. That means build successful, right? We are not getting error, right? So how is this possible? Previously we have two errors. So if you remember, if we comment this method, then we will get two error, right? So see, if we comment this, we will get a two error. So one error is for this interface and another error is for this error. But once we implement one text method, then both the error are going. How it is possible? We have implemented the text method only once, but once we implement the text method, both the error are removed. How it is possible? This is possible because the interface asks the child class to implement the method, not to consume the method, right? In this case, this interface one asking this child class, hey, Mr. Child class, please implement this test method. And we are implementing this test method, and this interperson check the child class, and he sees that inside the child class, this text method is implemented, and he is happy, and he is not giving any kind of error. Now interface 2 also checking the body of this child class, and he also seeing that this method is implemented, and he is fine, and he is not complaining. Why this is possible? Because interface 1 does not know who is interface 2. He doesn't have any information related to interface 2. Even interface 2 doesn't have any idea related to interface 1. In this case, both the interfaces are thinking that this is the main text method which is implemented by the child class. This interface think that this implementation is for this method. The interface 2 also having the same feeling. He also feels that this test method is this test method is for this declaration. So in this case, both the interfaces are thinking that their text method is implemented by the child class, and this is the reason why we will not get any kind of error. Because see here, this interface not providing this method for consumption, right? Here this interface providing this method to be implemented by the child class. If consumption is there, then we will face the ambiguity problem. But interface, there is no chance for consumption, right? We are not going to consume any member that is defined inside the interface. Interface means we are going to provide implementation to the member under the child classes, right? So in this case, interface 1 will look into the class for test method implementation and see that the text method is implemented, and so interface is happy and will not give any error. And the same thing in the case of interface 2 also. Interface 2 also check the text method implementation inside the child class, and he also see that the text method is implemented inside the child class, and he is happy and he will not give any kind of error. So simply speaking, we are cheating both the interfaces by implementing the method only once. So in this case, we are cheating with both the interfaces. So we are telling both the interface that this method is yours. We are telling both the interfaces that this method is here, and we are implementing this in our class. And both the interfaces are not aware of each other. Because they are not aware of each other, both the interfaces thinking that my method is implemented by the child class, and this is the reason why we are not getting any kind of ambiguity issue. Now if you run this code, then you will get the output expected, right? So this is my interface 1, interface 2. This class implement both the interface, provide implementation for this text method, and I'm creating an instance of this multiple inheritance test class and calling the text method. So once I call this method, this method is going to be executed. So now let's run the application and see the output. In this case, the text method what we defined inside the child class, that is going to be executed. See, text method is implemented in child class. What message we have written here, that is going to be printed in the console window. So this is how you can implement multiple inheritance in C#, right? How to implement each interface method separately in C#. In our previous video, we have already discussed the concept of explicit interface implementation. Using explicit interface implementation, we can implement each interface method separately inside the child class. So when each interface method is implemented separately under the child class by providing the method name along with the interface name, then it is called explicit implementation of interface, right? In this case, while calling the method, again, we need to use the parent reference variable, or we need to typecast the object to the appropriate reference type, right? To understand this, let me copy this code to the Visual Studio and show you and explain you the concept, right? So in this case, see, in this case, this is my interface 1 and this is my interface 2. And if you see this method text is implemented, this interface having two method text and show, and in this case also the interface having two method text and show. So this is the normal way of implementation. In this case, we are implementing the text method. So the both the interface having the feeling that this interface implementation belongs to them, right? Interface 1 will think that this is its text method, and interface 2 also feel that this is its text method. So this is the normal way of implementing. Now, what is our requirement? We need to implement this show method for each interface. So for interface 1, we need to implement this method. For interface 2, we also need to implement this method. This is possible by using explicit interface implementation. We already discussed, right? How to implement means we need to specify the interface name, right? So this show method belongs to interface 1. So I am specifying interface 1.show. And this show method belongs to interface 2. So I'm specifying interface 2.show. And while you are implementing explicit interface implementation, you no need to use the public keyword. Why? Because we are explicitly telling this interface method of show method, right? This show method is belongs to interface 1, and in interface 1, this method is declared as public. So no need to declare that method public again. And same in the case also here. So no need to declare the method as again. So explicit interface implementation means you need to specify the interface name followed by the method name by using the dot operator. Again, so using this class instance, you can call this method directly. But now, as you have implemented this method explicitly, you cannot call this method directly by using this class instance. How you can call this method? You can create a reference variable of this type which can point to this class instance, and you can call this method. Also, if you are creating an instance of this class, then you need to typecast that class to the appropriate interface type. If you typecast this object to interface 1, and if you invoke the sub method, then this show method is going to be executed. And if you create an instance of this class, and if you typecast that instance to interface 2, and if you invoke the show method, then this show method is going to be executed, right? Now, let us see this. So here what I'm trying to do, I'm creating an instance of my class, my child class instance I created. Using the child class instance, I can call this text method because this is a normal implementation. You can call this text, but you cannot call this show method because this show method is not implemented in a normal way. Why? Because this show method is implemented in an explicit way. So if you are invoking obj.show, then the compiler will get confused. I need to invoke this show method. I need to invoke this show method, or I need to invoke this show method, because there are two show method available inside this child class. So I am getting confused only to invoke which version of the show method. That means what we need to do, we need to explicitly tell that this show which version of the show method we want to execute. Whether we want to execute interface 1.show method, or we want to execute interface 2.show method. How we can do this? Two ways. What are the way? You can create a reference variable of your interface type, which is pointing your child class object, and you can invoke the show method. In this case, the interface 1 show method is going to be executed, means this version of show method is going to be executed. And the second way is that you need to typecast that variable to the appropriate interface type. So in this case, you can see obj, and I'm typecasting that object to interface 2, and I'm invoking the show method. So in this case, the other overloaded version which is implemented using the interface 2 is going to be executed. So in this case, that interface 2 show method is going to be executed. Right now let's run the application and see the output. So once you run this application, you will see that first the test method is going to be executed, then the show method from the interface 1 is going to be executed, and then show method from interface 2 is going to be executed. So this is how we can implement explicit implementation, and how this is how we can provide implementation to each interface method inside the child class. I hope you understand this concept, right? So that's it for today. In the next video, we are going to give you one real-time example of a multiple inheritance. In case you need the text code or the whatever the code or whatever the example and whatever the theory I have written here, if in case you need, then the link for the same is going to be provided in the video description section. You can go to that link and you can get the documents, right? Thank you for watching this video.